us. So welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon for an informational session on LA County's Governance Reform Task Force. I'm Isela Gracian, and I am Supervisor Mitchell's Senior Deputy on Housing, Homelessness, and Planning, and she is joining us this evening as well. You can see her. She's going to wave hello. She's going to be hearing, thank you, Supervisor, she's going to be hearing and listening in. But really today's session is a collaboration between our office, the Office of Supervisor Holly J. Mitchell, and the LA County Executive Office. And in a moment, you will hear from them. But this is a very important conversation that we are having for the entirety of LA County. This task force is really going to help us set the stage for implementation of Measure G and really look at the details that are needed in this current and expansive formation of LA County governance. And so today we're going to focus on information on the task force itself, but really important for you all to apply, to tell your family, friends, and neighbors. And even more important is to ensure that you're participating throughout this process and informing and being involved, because this is how we make democracy come alive. It's not just the day that we vote on election day, but really throughout the year, and really being able to work with county government to continue to improve how we work and serve with community. I'm just going to go over a couple housekeeping items. So really today, again, we'll have an opportunity for you all to ask questions at the end of a presentation that our executive office is going to lead for us. You can also use the chat function to post questions, and we will be sending a copy of today's slides and recordings out to you all, those that registered, and you all can share them as well. And we have just a few points on the agenda, because really this is about answering any questions to really encourage you, or for you to encourage others to apply to be considered for the task force. So we just went through the welcome, the housekeeping items. In a moment, we'll go through the presentation on the information on the task force, and then we'll spend the rest of the time doing questions and answers to hopefully clarify, and again, encourage as many of you to apply for these seats and to stay connected and activated in this process. So I want to introduce Eddie Yin from our executive office. I hope I pronounced your name right, and if not, you can correct me on it. You come on camera, and I'll pass it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Stella. Thank you very much, Supervisor Mitchell, for allowing us to have this opportunity to showcase the Governance Reform Task Force and explain to your constituents how to sign up. So I'm here to talk about the Governance Reform Task Force that was created back in November 2024. LA County voters passed Measure G. Thank you. This created a law that provided an opportunity to make changes to county government. And my department, the Executive Office of the Board of Supervisors, is charged to oversee the task force. The task force is going to be like advisors, helping the Board of Supervisors figure out how to put Measure G into action and make our county government more effective and transparent. The task force is made up of 13 people, a mix of community leaders and regular citizens, so we get everyone's perspectives. The chosen applicants are going to be super important in shaping how LA County is run in the future, making sure these reforms actually work for us. Next slide, please. So the reason why you should think about joining this task force is it's a chance to actually make a difference. You'll be right there working with county government employees to help create policies that make your local government more accountable and one that people can trust. Plus, you'll get to work with a diverse group of people, such as community leaders, government employees, professors, academic experts, and people with their own personal experiences. So anyone can apply. These are people all working towards the same goal, and you'll be helping make sure our tax dollars are being used wisely. Being on the task force is a way to be part of something big, building a stronger, more open and accountable government for people in LA County. Next slide, please. So what will you actually be responsible for? Well, if you're chosen, you will be making recommendations on multiple areas to make things more transparent and accountable. For example, you'll be advising on making sure department budgets are presented in public meetings, like the one we had this morning through the afternoon. That way, everyone can see where the money's going. You will also be working on making the Board of Supervisors meetings more transparent. By 2026, rules are to be developed to make sure all meeting items are posted at least 120 hours beforehand. This gives everyone a chance to weigh in and know what's going on. The task force will also be working on strengthening ethics in accounting. By 2026, there will be a recommendation for the creation of an independent ethics commission, an office of ethics compliance, and an ethics compliance officer, basically making sure everyone plays by the rules. Looking ahead, the task force will be helping to create an elected county executive by 2028. This includes setting up new positions like the Director of Budget and Management and the County Legislative Analyst to make sure things run smoothly. And finally, this group will be making recommendations on how the Board of Supervisors will be expanded from 5 to 9 members after the 2030 redistricting. This will give more communities a stronger voice. Next slide, please. So, how do you actually get on the task force? It's a 3-step process, and there are 13 spots total. First, the Board of Supervisors each get to pick one person. That's 5 members right there. Next, 3 labor organizations, the LA County Federation of Labor, SEIU Local 721, and the Coalition of County Unions, each get to nominate someone. That's 3 more. Finally, the 5 board-appointed members get to pick the last 5 members. Then they'll need a 4/5 majority vote, and the board has to approve their picks during a Tuesday board meeting. They also have to make sure the task force has at least one person from areas like business, city government, community groups, and public sector ethics. And at least 2 members have to live in unincorporated areas of the county. This whole process is designed to make sure the task force is diverse and has a wide range of experience. Next slide, please. So here are some questions that we have received thus far. First, who can apply? There's a list of requirements and disqualifications online at MeasureG.LACounty.gov. You can go there and click on who can serve on the Governance Reform Task Force to see the full list. But basically, you need to be an adult, live or work in LA County, be willing to put in the time, and have some experience in community outreach or knowledge of how government works. You'll also need to file a Form 700, which is a financial disclosure form. You can find information about that on the application website. There are also some things that would disqualify you, like being an elected official, working for one, or being a registered lobbyist. Check the website for the full list. Now, when does the task force start and finish? The first meeting is expected by May 30th, 2025. Therefore, all the processes up to that point will be about the selection of the 13 task force members. And the completion of the work should wrap up by December 3rd, 2028, though that could be extended based on the circumstances and situations at the time. Will the meetings be public? Absolutely. Everything will be open and transparent with lots of chances for the community to give their input. Now, how much time do you have to commit? It can vary. In past experiences with other commissions that we've had, the time spent could be anywhere from 20 to maybe 40 hours a month. It all depends on the type of project that you're working on. For example, if you're working on the Ethics Commission or the county executive topics, that may dictate whether you have a shorter amount of time per month or a longer amount of time per month that you'll be working on. And then the last question that we've heard so far, will task force members get paid? Yes, they'll receive a per diem for their time. Then we're still working out the amount that they're going to be giving, but we'll have that information out soon. Next slide, please. So this slide will give you an idea of how to apply. You can apply online at MeasureG.LACounty.gov, or if you prefer, you can hand deliver your application to the Kenneth Hahn Hall of Administration. just go to 500 West Temple Street, room 383, Los Angeles, California, 90012. We're not taking mail-in applications, so make sure you hand deliver the application, or for more convenience, go online so that we can receive it by March 7th, 2025. Just a reminder, go to MeasureG.LACounty.gov and then click Apply Now, and you can fill out the application online. We've created a form where you just input the information in some fields, click Submit, and then it goes into our system, and you will immediately receive an email to show the receipt of your application. Or if you prefer, we also have a print option where you could print the entire PDF, and that's how you'll be able to mail in that's when you will be able to hand deliver your application to our offices. Just a reminder, applications must be received by March 7th, 2025. I'm ready to go into some questions, and Azella, if you want, we could even go through the application. I'll leave it up to the people who have some questions.
Yeah, let's, thank you, Eddie, for going through that and sharing that information. Let's actually go walk folks through the website first, and then we'll go to questions and answers. So go for it, Eddie.
Great. So if you scroll down this website, we've highlighted the 5 areas one of the 5 main areas that the Measure G covers. But I think if you want to go through the application process, that will actually help us identify some of the qualifications. Click on Apply Now. So if you scroll down, so this whole form, it's basically you just plug in the information into the field, and we will capture that information in the fields easily. And if we want to if you want to, we could go through it one by one. Another way to do it is if you want, click the print button. We'll open up a dialog box, and we'll be able to see all the questions. There you go. Okay. And that's where, so you include your name, and if you keep scrolling down, so we basically ask some of the basic information, name, address. If you scroll further down, we'll have more of the qualification information probably. There you go, eligibility. So under the eligibility, this section will need to know which district you live in. And depending on if you do not live in the LA County district, but work in the County of Los Angeles district, we'll have additional boxes that pop out to give you some other choices so that you'll know where to select. For example, what district you work in, for example. Keep going down. Okay. And then the Form 700, are you willing to fill out a Form 700? Many government employees are what we call Form 700 filers. So if you join this task force, you will have to be a Form 700 filer. Additional information will be available at that link where you see here. Under the conflicts of interest, this is where we need to find out information, help guide you through this to see if you qualify for this or not. I mentioned earlier that if you are an appointed elected official, then you would not qualify. If you work for an elected official, if you are a lobbyist, you don't qualify. And these questions are there for you to go through so that if you say yes to any of these, then essentially you will be disqualified. So you'll have to first meet the minimum qualifications before the supervisors are able to evaluate whether to choose you as a task force member. And then part of the minimum requirements, it's kind of like an application, I guess, for a job where you have to provide a narrative about why you want to be on the task force. And a lot of this is really about background information, trying to understand your interest in this so that when we do look at your application, we can understand your, why you want to join the task force. Yep, and you just keep scrolling down. So as you can see, we're trying to really help people walk through this application. This application also works well on your phone. So if you open this up on your phone, you could just type in the application. It should be simple enough to go and scroll through your phone and just type in your answers. In this section, it provides you some demographic information and language proficiency here. As you can see, we're really trying to capture a wide net of people. We want to make sure we have a very diverse group of task force members who are joining to provide some of this advice for the supervisors. And I think we're close to the end to this application. We also have a notification acknowledgement section and a declaration section acknowledging that, declaring that everything that was stated in this application is to be true and correct. And like I said, once you submit this application online, you will get an immediate response to your email address stating that we have received your application.
Thank you again, Eddie, for walking us through that information. I know we have some questions in the chat, but you can also raise your hand if you want to voice your question, and you will be unmuted as sorry, my tech team will help us unmute you. Right now, the couple questions, and I know some of them have been answered also. One of the questions was around the number 9, around expanding the Board of Supervisors. That was, I'll answer that one. It was included in the initiative, decided by the authors of the motion from the board. There isn't necessarily additional reasoning or information on the numbers. So let me go to the next question, Eddie, is if you join this task force, does it disqualify you from other commissions formed by this task force? Does it disqualify you from critiquing or participating in demonstrations that critique the county?
I don't believe so. I'm looking at the qualifications, and it doesn't say anything about if you are part of another commission. In fact, I don't think that's one of the disqualifying elements. So I would say no. And demonstrations, I think that's your First Amendment right to be able to speak freely. So, and that is also not part of our eligibility requirements. So it's not part of the disqualifying factors.
I think we might have someone with a hand up, but I'll go to one more question from the chat and then we'll go to hands. And then in order to allow as many people to participate, if you ask your question and or have a comment, we'll have about 90 seconds for you to ask that. So timer on your comment. But let's go to this question, Eddie. Somebody's asking, what skills, background, or expertise does the position require or is being considered?
I think that's the whole purpose of this task force, is that we're seeking any and all types of skills, knowledge, and experience. The only the qualifiers for these positions is really whether they are over 18, reside and work with Los Angeles County, willingness to work on a highly visible advisory board, ability to commit the necessary time, and then also have some qualifications of experience in community outreach or with marginalized and socioeconomically disadvantaged populations, possess experience and demonstrate analytical skills relevant to the performance of government functions and execution of government duties, and must explain their reason for seeking to be a member of the GRTF, and of course, be willing to file a statement of economic interest, which is the Form 700. So what it's saying is that if you have any experience, I think we are trying to get people with many lived experiences, whether you're a professional or you are in blue collar labor. We want to have anyone really join in this and apply, but we also are understanding that it's dependent on people's time. So we're looking for people who are willing to be able to commit the time. We mentioned 20 to 40 hours a month. We recognize people have jobs, people have families, but we're looking for people who are willing to dedicate some of their time and experience for this endeavor. And that's why this is we do offer per diem, and I recognize the per diem is not going to cover everyone's time, but it is a way to be able to show some appreciation and also provide some type of compensation for the time that they are going to spend. And ultimately, it's the commitment that you're giving to your county, the public service that you're offering to the County of Los Angeles and the people of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm gonna go to my colleagues for hands up. I see Robert Cole. So Robert, in a moment, you'll be unmuted and you can ask your question and or comment.
Yes, thank you so much. So the meetings that will be with stakeholders and the community-based organizations, when they be rotated throughout the district, like will there be meetings in District 1, District 5, District 4 for the duration of the process?
Yes, so we will work on having those meetings throughout the county. We want to make sure maximum participation in the entire county, but we also recognize that sometimes people are relying more on streaming devices or virtual because they may not be able to attend events at those locations. So we will make sure that we will have the ability for people to attend electronically or through the internet, as well as in-person events in the district, in the various districts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. I don't see any other hands, so I'm gonna go through a couple more questions from the chat, or a few more, since we have some time. We have one for clarity. They're asking if someone is serving as a commissioner for the city of Los Angeles, does that preclude them from applying? And I'm gonna add these other questions because they're kind of connected. They wanted to also, they're asking if you can elaborate on some other things that could disqualify somebody from serving on the body and what kinds of things are conflict of interest. So if they're an LA City Commissioner, does it disqualify them from applying? You can elaborate on what disqualifies and what examples of what's considered conflict of interest.
Okay, so first question, as far as if you are in a commission of a city, right?
City of LA, yeah.
Yeah, so that is not an automatic disqualifier. That in of itself is not. So I guess no. The answer is no.
Okay. And then what kinds of things are conflicts of interest?
So I guess the way we would call it, it's really the disqualification, right? So it's if you're an appointed staff, yeah, I'm sorry, hold on. If you are an appointed staff to an elected or a candidate for office, so that could be, for example, yourself, myself, we would be disqualified because we work directly for an elected, or a candidate for office at the local, state, or federal level, representing any area within the county of Los Angeles. So it would probably be a assembly member, state senator, congress member, city council, people who are either the candidate themselves or a staff. Let me see. Well, the candidate themselves for sure, and then if you are serving as an appointed staff or paid consultant of an elected representative. So, okay, let me clarify that. So if you're appointed to, elected to, or a candidate of a local, state, or federal office, then you would be disqualified. But if you're working for an elected, then you would be disqualified. And if you're serving as an employee or a paid consultant for a candidate for office at the local, state, or federal level, you would be disqualified. So I guess actually you would be disqualified even if you're an employee also. Yes, that's true. And or if you're a registered state or local lobbyist.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm gonna go through a couple more questions that I see on the chat, and if I miss your question and you want to voice it, you can raise your hand. And then I also, just for point of reference, what Eddie is reading is this Measure G and the task force came about from a motion of the LA County Board of Supervisors, as he mentioned before. So that guided the development, or that was the direct language that guided the initiative language. And the formation of the task force was guided by that and an additional board motion. So some of your questions, he's responding based on those actions of the Board of Supervisors. Some of the questions in the chat are in relation to the number of districts and how the districts will be divided. That is not where we're at yet. So there isn't a immediate response or more detailed response to those particular questions. Right now, the stage of implementing Measure G is around getting the task force formed to then continue on the conversations. So some of the questions you might have are kind of yet to be determined. And I just wanted to flag that. Eddie, someone's asking if there's any tips for applicants to stand out in the process.
You know what, I would say probably write as much as you can to describe yourself and also the experience you have. And I think there was questions about why you want to be on the task force. Because if you have to, the selection process essentially is a two-step process. One, you have to go through the minimum qualifications. Do you actually meet the minimum qualifications? Then the next step is going to be the written application where you're writing a response to the questions. Those are the desirable qualification questions, and the supervisors will then be reviewing and evaluating that to make the determination on who, well, first it's going to be, they're going to appoint their 5. Then the appointed 5 will look at the applications for the nominated 5 and then they will make their recommendation to the board. So the people who will be looking at these applications and looking at the desirable qualifications will be the appointed 5 initial 5 task force members who are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. And you have to imagine the more information about yourself, also talking about your desire to be a part of this, you should take a look at our website, go to MeasureG.LACounty.gov, obtain as much information about it, and then write why you want to be a part of this task force.
Thank you, Eddie. Let me uplift this one. I think important for people to know who have not had an opportunity to serve on commissions or public bodies. If you can explain what the Form 700 is in as much detail as possible.
Well, we could go back to that click here, Form 700. But I think generally what it is it's a form to ensure that government employees are transparent to where their, for example, salaries are, and to ensure that there is transparency and there's no conflict of interest in us serving as government employees. The actual application itself, I think we have it on our website. There's a link to the form itself. Let me actually go on our website, make sure it's on there. Maybe
And
that someone on my team. Oh, there's a link to the Form 700.
as they pull that up, just to underscore what Eddie mentioned, that the 700 form is really to be able to disclose if there's any gifts. So if somebody is taking you to lunch, that maybe will have a contract decision before the body or is attempting to influence the body, the decision-making body. This form is a way to report any of those gifts and or contributions. So even if you're not an elected position, when you're working on this commission, and there's other commissions as well, or as staffers of electeds, this form is required for public disclosure. And as Eddie pointed out, to see if there's any potential conflict of interest. So this connects back up to the person's question or earlier on conflict of interest. So as that form gets maybe found for us to visually show you that, I'll go to another question. Oh, there goes. Y'all beat me to it. Go for it. This is the Form 7. I'll pass it to you, Eddie, for walking them through this one.
Yeah, and I think these are the instruction sheets. You know, typically there's like a form A, B, C, D, and depending on what you have as ownership interest, like do you have stock? This will ask you to list what stock you have. This is really important because it'll show, for example, if you own a company and you own a majority interest of that company, and that company does business with the county. This is to help identify whether there's a conflict of interest where if you are the decision-making body for the county agreeing to a contract with a company you own, then there's a conflict there and you should not be making that decision. And so this information is filed with the state, with the county, and then if there's a conflict, it's this, you know, employees fill it out under penalty of perjury. So you're supposed to put all that information out there. And so therefore, our task force members will also have to be filing those Form 700 forms.
Thank you. I'm going to go to another question in the chat, and then I'm going to ask for those of you that have dropped more questions in the chat, if I haven't gotten to your question and you want to make sure it's heard, can you raise your hand and voice your question? And so I'm going to read one more question, and then we're going to go to the raise hand. So Eddie, there's a question, if you could walk the group through this timeline a little bit. So the comment is applications are due March 7th. And can you please review any additional dates through the process and timing of when the task force will begin their work? So if you could just review that again with people.
Sure, and I'll try to give you some dates. Don't want to confuse everyone with so many dates. So right now, application is due March 7th, 2025. That's the deadline to receive the applications. And the idea is we need to receive applications for the 5 appointed as well as the 3 nominated labor nominated members. And essentially what's going to happen is the first 5 are going to appoint the at-large 5, which means we need to receive as many applications as we can by March 7. So we are encouraging everyone, please apply by March 7. Like we said, the application online, it's easy to use. You can use it on your phone as well. So March 7th is a date that we want to receive all applications. Then by April 21st, that's when the first group of the 5 task force members will be appointed by the Board of Supervisors. That's April 21st. Then at that same time, the 3 union nominated members will also be nominated to be selected. And after that, we are looking at, then the April 21st is when the union nominated members will be nominated, but they must be approved by the board by May 21st. And the way that happens is those names who have been selected will be put on the board agenda, and the board will then have to approve the labor nominated. Then the next timeline is going to be the let me see here. By May 20th, then by May 21st, the board appointed task force members must nominate the 5 at-large members. So May 21st is the deadline for when the labor nominated as well as the original 5 GRTF task force members will nominate the 5 additional at-large members. And then by May 30th, and so we're really looking at by May 20th, because we will have a regular board meeting, but by May 30th, we're supposed to have all those members approved by the board. So you have March 7th, then you have April 21st, you have May 21st, and then by May 30th, we will have to have the members appointed, and then also having the first meeting by May 30th.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm gonna go, I think Janet has her hand up.
Hi, thank you. I know that this task force is intended to guide key reforms and make recommendations. Are there any direct supervisorial powers that this task force has, or any decisions that will be made that are implemented immediately, or are all of these task force reforms going through the board essentially?
I, it's essentially you are providing advice and guidance to the board. So you'll be making recommendations. There won't be any direct actions that this task force will be making that will be implemented for the county.
Okay, and so that goes for the Ethics Commission as well. The appointees will be ultimately decided by the board members.
So what this task force will be doing is it will be providing the guidance on how to create the Ethics Commission. So it's not about the Ethics Commission itself. It's not created yet. This task force will make a determination of how it will be created.
Okay, thank you.
Ooh, another question from the chat. Eddie, if you can please share more about how the work of the task force will be shared or divided. I believe it was mentioned that the time spent will depend on which components of Measure G a task force member will work on.
And it's kind of similar to what the previous caller asked about was the Ethics Commission. So we're going to have different buckets of responsibilities or topics, and then the commission or the task force itself will make a decision on how they want to divide up the work. Maybe it's one person per area, maybe it's two, and the determination will be made by the task force.
Thank you. Okay, you all typed faster than what I was tracking on the chat. So if
I
there's
will.
anybody else that wants to voice your question, if you could raise your hand, and or if our team can.
And Estella, I
Yes.
will add as a supplement to that answer is that we will have staff guiding this whole process. So there will be people there doing the work, taking the notes, making sure that we're collecting the questions and answering any questions that the task force has. So they're not doing this alone. We will be right there with them, and we will be making sure we're providing updates to the supervisors to making sure we're ensuring that this process is fair and equitable.
I see Adina raise your hand. Can we unmute Adina, please?
Hi, thank you for this presentation. I was just wondering if it's known yet if there's a possibility there could be any Saturday meetings, or if it would only be weekday, or that's just not known yet.
It's not known, and I know in the past, during for example, the redistricting commission, there were Saturdays. People were working all sorts of times, and sometimes it's you individually work on your own, and not all meetings and all work will be done together. There will also be consultants who will be retained, so there will be opportunities to work with other people besides just within the task force.
Great, thank you. I see Janet's hand up. Can we unmute Janet, please?
Yes, thank you so much. I know that it was covered that the task force meetings will be public and transparent. Does that mean that there will be opportunity for a community to participate in those, maybe through public comment or something else?
Yes, yes. And I know when we worked on the redistricting commission, it was during COVID too. So I think everything was online, but we are looking at finding facilities all across the county in each district. So we could have meetings in each district, but also have a streaming function and have a public comment be done via phone or some type of Zoom option or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
And as part of that public transparency, as Eddie mentioned, that the recommendations are definitely publicly shared with the board, and the Angelinos at large can participate in those meetings as well when it comes to the board. All right. I think we covered most of the key questions. Again, I'll just give one final call. If you posted a question in the chat and you didn't see a response in the chat and want to voice it, if you can raise your hand, otherwise we'll move to wrap up.
And Azella, I think if we're able to capture the chat questions, we'll make sure to, update our FAQs.
Yes, we will definitely, our team can share that with you all. And then there's also, as a reminder that if people have additional questions, you can email info@MeasureG.LACounty.gov. It's on the screen. I don't see any additional hands. So I just want to again encourage you all to apply. And remember, as Eddie was walking through the application, some of the questions that are in the chat in regards to qualifications, part of why there's the different questions on the application is to help sift through those qualifications. Before we fully wrap up, I saw Supervisor Mitchell came back on. If you want to say a few words to.
I just want to thank you and Eddie and the executive office for spending some time on a Friday night and a good number of participants. Thank you all. It's one thing to vote on an initiative. It's one thing to kind of Monday morning quarterback and think, gee, if I were in control, I would be doing this differently. So, it was a voter initiative. People voted. So I really want people to step up to the plate and participate. You had really great questions about the amount of time it takes. Great questions, because I don't want you to sign up for something that you kind of get in over your head. I saw the question about Saturdays, and I don't know if you got the context, Eddie, but they were talking about religious limitations of Saturday work for Adventists and our Jewish brothers and sisters. So I would think that task force members would probably set their own calendar. And so, what I heard repeatedly when this motion was debated, when I asked for clarifying questions, it was the task force will make that decision. So the task force is really going to be truly empowered to determine how they're going to govern themselves, as well as make lots of decisions that will impact all of us here in LA County. But just thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Mitchell.
Eddie, any final words before we wrap up?
I think just MeasureG.LACounty.gov. I wish we could say it shorter, but it's a long URL. Hopefully not too long, but really appreciate everyone signing up. Like Supervisor Mitchell said, on a Friday evening. I think this is what Supervisor Mitchell has been really trying to do, really bring in the community, elevate people so that people know about what's out there for local government. We want you to participate. This Board of Supervisors has been amazing in supporting whether it's language access, access to information that we have to ensure that we empower people in the community. So thank you very much, Supervisor Mitchell, for giving us this platform to share the opportunity to sign up for this task force.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you to both your team and our team who coordinated and pulled this session together. And thank you all again for joining us. Be safe, enjoy your weekend, and submit your application. Don't wait till the last minute because you saw the questions. Think about it and submit that. So thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.